never a case. There was no evidence of a conspiracy. The sheriff and Mr. Kropp didn't know each other. There was no evidence that the sheriff ever knowingly did anything with the intent to break the law, which is what the government was required to prove. I kept asking the government for that evidence, and the government never produced it. The government also failed to produce that evidence in a recent trial of Mr. Kropp, the co-defendant. The jury was not fooled. Mr. Kropp was acquitted on all counts. As a prosecutor for more than 35 years, I always worried about the power that I had to ruin lives. I tried very hard to get it right. That is what justice looks like. I never doubted Sheriff Jenkins' innocence. When the ATF dropped in and interviewed him 2.5 years ago, he spoke with them. He didn't have to, but he had nothing to hide. He was honest and cooperative, according to the very ATF agents who interviewed him. Sheriff Jenkins offered to come speak to the prosecutors. They were not interested. I have never heard of a prosecutor that did not jump at the chance to speak to someone they were investigating. That told me that they had already made up their minds, and that was 2.5 years ago. As a prosecutor, it is not about winning, it is about getting to the truth. You don't decide the outcome of a case and then go looking for evidence to support it. You follow the evidence wherever it takes you. Sheriff Jenkins is a hardworking, honest man who gets up every day and tries to do what's right. As sheriff, he has represented and worked to protect the citizens of Frederick County since 2005. Since April of 2023, he has done so without a means to protect himself. He was not permitted to carry a service weapon once he was charged. We want to thank U.S. District Judge Stephanie Gallagher for dismissing the case with prejudice at 12:29 this afternoon. Thank you.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Sheriff Jenkins introduced me as well. I'm Margaret Tian, and with Andrea Smith, I was co-counsel in this case. As someone who lives in this county and works in this county and has raised her family in this county, I just want to say that it is not a mystery to anyone how much Sheriff Jenkins is respected, how much he is loved, how loyal his supporters are, his wonderful staff, his family. But as we interviewed individuals as potential character witnesses, we just really saw the depth and the breadth of how much he is respected in this county. And if there's anything that makes one exercise grace under pressure, it is to have the incredible power and stress of your government coming down with charges against you, and to carry yourself with the level of dignity, with the level of calm, and with the level of politeness that Sheriff Jenkins has done since this has been pending is really an incredible testament to who he is as an individual and as a representative of the citizens of this county. And it has been a privilege. It really has. It's been a privilege to represent him. Thank you.
Thank you. So again, I can't thank my two attorneys enough, my legal team. They were phenomenal. So let me start off by saying, first of all, this is a great day for me, a great day for this agency, and we're at a new time in America right now. I finally have my life back, my personal life, my professional life. The first and most important thing I want to do today is to express my thanks and my appreciation and my gratitude to my family, my great friends, my close friends, my literally thousands of local county residents who have come up to me over the course of this 597 days and said they never wavered in their faith and trust. To a person, they've encouraged me to go on, keep fighting, never resign, never step down. I've got some close friends that have called me literally every night of the week to encourage me to keep going here. And I've even had people who don't know me, even people who you might say never agree with me politically, would walk up and say, you know, Sheriff, I don't like you, I'd never vote for you, but I don't think you broke the law. So again, I've had pastors come in and bi-weekly and pray for me in my office, and To a person, each one urged me never to give up the fight. So I want to thank those in my senior command staff and support staff that have stood by me. They never doubted me. They never doubted my innocence. This agency has not missed a beat over this entire time. So a couple comments about this whole case. I was wrongfully indicted on April 5th, 2022, and I had to find out through the media. They didn't even have the courtesy to call my attorneys and let them know. Accused of federal crimes related to false statements and conspiracy. Today, the government finally did the right thing and dismissed the indictment with prejudice. This has been pure hell for myself and my entire family and even my friends. With almost 35 years in law enforcement, I have always believed in the justice system, but this ordeal has made me believe the people that are currently running the system are not the right people. I've never seen anyone experience anything like this in my entire career. For 587 days, I've been the target of a malicious and I believe a political persecution, and I know the public realizes that based on the comments I've received over the course of the past couple years. Months ago, I was told by prosecutors that I was indicted and being prosecuted on a theory, not evidence, like my attorney demonstrated, but a theory. I believe the DOJ has made every effort to ruin my reputation as sheriff, mentally punish and torture me and financially destroy me, knowing very well I committed no crimes. There was never any evidence of a crime. So going back to May 25th of 2022, 3 ATF agents came into my office for what I believe was a casual cop-to-cop conversation. I was totally truthful. I was cooperative. I was completely honest. As a matter of fact, I had just bought a shotgun at a gun store locally. I thought I messed up the paperwork. That's why I thought they were here. I wasn't aware they were secretly recording my conversation, but I guess that's how the government can do things these days, especially in a two-party consent state. I'm not going to go into the detail. However, I do believe the ATF agents apparently believed that I was receiving kickbacks, political support, some kind of favor, or quid pro quo for the letters that I allegedly prepared and signed for demonstrations of automatic weapons. And listen, there's not a person in this county that doesn't believe that I would want to go to the range and see guns and shoot guns. That's just who I am. That's my life. There are apparently sheriffs and police chiefs across the country who are allegedly involved in some types of schemes, receiving monies or kickbacks for similar letters and similar actions. I'm not that sheriff. I'm not that person. Those things don't even cross my mind. Shortly after that interview, I offered to meet with the federal prosecutors about the investigation. The U.S. attorney refused my offer, instead continuing the investigation through the remainder of the election year 2022, finding absolutely no evidence of any crime. They sifted through my personal finances, my emails, my bank accounts, my credit, my campaign finance records, my contributions for election over the past 16 years. They found nothing, absolutely nothing. During my arraignment, the government prosecutor requested the magistrate order me to remove my firearms from the home, my personal weapons, and surrender my duty weapons back to the agency. So for this entire time of 587 days, I'm doing my job every single day in this county to protect everybody else with no means of protecting myself, mostly in uniform. I believe this prosecution has been about public embarrassment, humiliation, and demeaning me personally, along with damaging my professional and personal reputation. During a meeting with my attorneys and prosecutors, I was told to my face by one of them that I was a typical corrupt politician, I was a corrupt sheriff, and again, they were prosecuting me based on a theory. I was flatly told that my job as sheriff was to enforce the law, not to help a local business. Let me tell you, everything I can do every single day in this county, I will do to help local business and the local citizens. That's who I am. After watching the Crop trial from start to finish, it was really clear that the Department of Justice had no evidence and no case to move forward with. So you all know that the Crop outcome was not guilty on all verdicts. What really got to me is watching the closing of the trial. One of the prosecutors, in closing, labeled me, and I took this very personally standing there, labeled me a crooked sheriff and a corrupt politician with no basis or evidence to do that. So just a few last thoughts. I do believe I've been wronged by the Department of Justice, unjustly indicted and prosecuted. I've never wavered once on being completely innocent and never backed down. I was told initially by my attorneys that you have very little chance against the entire full force of the government. But we fought it. I fought it. I never backed off of it. And I, as my attorney, I believe the Department of Justice has way too much power to ruin someone's life. Obviously, it's a weight taken off of me and my family and friends. It's a huge mental relief for me. And because of the sanctions imposed by the courts, I wasn't able to live my life, either personally or professionally. I wasn't allowed to be who I am, and I have that back now. I love this great country. I love our county. I love the citizens that live here. I serve because this is what I like to do. I could have walked away from this job 10 years ago and been actually better off financially, probably. That's my problem. But anyway, I love this county. I love to fairly enforce the laws in this county, and I respect everybody's individual rights. And I never stopped doing my duties as sheriff in Frederick County over this entire period of time. So in closing, I'm going to say this. So I feel like this was an assassination attempt very similar to President Trump on July 13th. I really do, in retrospect. It was a near miss. I was injured and I was bloodied, but I didn't give up the fight. I will never give up that fight. I never will. And this is a message to everybody. If you're not guilty, if you're truly not guilty of a crime, never give in, never give up, and never plead guilty to something you're not guilty of. So I'll take a few questions.
Sheriff, are you going to pursue compensation for frivolous?
I am not going to discuss anything about that right now. Right now, I am enjoying the day. It's a mental relief to me, and we're not even going to discuss that.
Sheriff, it's not unusual for the DOJ and the U.S. Attorney's Office to dismiss charges. But with prejudice,
I disagree, sir. I'm told that it's not usually done. It happens very rarely.
with prejudice, it's very unusual.
I'm told it
Very
is, yes.
unusual. That's basically saying they're not coming after you again. They didn't have the evidence. What do you say to that?
If they would have spoken to me months and months ago, it would never have gotten this far because I knew there was, listen, I knew the truth. I knew the truth from day one. They refused to listen to the truth.
Sheriff, if you could go back, would you do anything differently? Would you still sign those law letters for the machine gun matter?
You know what I would have done? I'd have picked up the phone, which, folks, I get busy, okay? My assistant will tell you that my schedule is nonstop. In retrospect, I did nothing wrong except I failed to pick up the phone and call and say, hey, are the guns here? As Mr. Kropp never picked up the phone and said, Sheriff, come see the guns. That's what I failed to do. There was never any intent, nothing willful, nothing intentional to ever do anything wrong whatsoever.
Sheriff, as you move past this personal chapter in your own life, I want to ask about possible next one. Are you having any plans to run for re-election?
I'm not even going to talk. My focus for the past 587 days has been to get through this. I'm finally through it. And we'll talk about going forward some other day.
Is it crossing your mind, at least at this point?
We'll talk about going forward some other day. I want to appreciate, first of all, again, today was about expressing my appreciation to the people of this county and my friends.
You mentioned this has been pure hell and that you've gone through this experience now as a criminal defendant. How has it informed this experience? How has it informed your policing?
You know what? It makes you think. I've never been on this side, but I've always respected, again, I go back to the way I policed in my career. I never charged anybody that I did not truly believe that I couldn't convict through evidence. And when this has given me a whole new outlook on things, and it really has. And I've tried to be gracious about it, and I've learned a lesson out of it. So.
At the center of all of this is the need or interest in having machine guns for either demonstrations or for law enforcement. Sometimes that need arises. Can you speak to the current status of where that need is right now?
So let me tell you why I'd always want to see demonstrations. When you think back and look at, let's go back to 1987, I think, the Hollywood, North Hollywood bank robberies, people using full automatic weapons against law enforcement. You look at Las Vegas, okay, the Las Vegas shootings, San Bernardino. You look at all these mass shootings where automatic weapons are used. The ATF lets these weapons out on the street. I don't. So I want to see what's there. I want to see what my men and women have to deal with. That's the reason.
Sheriff?
Yes.
Do you think this political persecution of you is due to your tough stand on border security and turning over illegal criminal aliens to ICE?
We're evaluating that.
We're evaluating.
What's your personal opinion?
Sheriff, you,
Listen, I'll say this, and I think it's fair to say this. The world, the public, the citizens here know what my stand is. I've been enforcing the law, and I'll stand by that. Over the years, I've been to Annapolis to testify against sanctuary state bills. I will continue to do that. I'll do everything I can do to protect this county. And again, probably, maybe my associations with the previous administration maybe are a part of it, I don't know. But listen, I had the privilege of being called to the White House because of what we're doing up here in Frederick County is so successful in keeping Frederick County safe. I don't apologize for that. So my position hasn't changed on it. But I won't dig any further into it right now. The rest of it, we're evaluating.
Sheriff, what about your service weapon? When do you get that back?
Got it back, folks. Take a look. I got it back, and let me tell you, Sunday morning, I'll be back on the sporting clays course shooting sporting clays. So there you go. How about other
you
questions?
didn't know Mr. Crop? Your attorney said that, I think?
I have met Mr. Crop twice, and I'm not sure even twice, but twice I believe. So one time, he scheduled a meeting to come to my office to introduce the new business, the new range, the gun shop. And listen, I go in every gun shop in Frederick County and beyond. That's just what I like to do. So he came into my office, we had a conversation. The only other time, and listen, if there's this big conspiracy, if there's this big scheme, the fall of 22 at the fair tent, and everybody knows I spend a lot of time in the Republican tent at the fair. That's just what I do. So he comes up to me with his wife pushing a baby carriage and extends his hand to shake my hand and introduce himself. Now, if we were in some sort of conspiracy, he wouldn't have had to do that.
And that date was after.
That was after.
the alleged conspiracy.
Right, right. So, again, I got to tell you, the ATF just didn't do their job.
And the very first meeting, we actually believe that he sent someone from his office. I don't think you met him then, because he wouldn't have then had to introduce himself in the fall of 22.
Correct.
So
So-
they didn't know each other.
Yeah, so no, yeah.
Do you plan to reach out to Mr. Crop?
No, I have no reason to. Aside from the fact both cases are finished, there's no reason to reach out, no. And I'll tell you this, I've been in his store probably a total of 5 times during the course of time it's been open, just as a customer casually walking in, once for a political a fundraiser for a congressional candidate, and that's it.
Can I ask your attorney, how unusual is it for, with prejudice, how, you have experience in the U.S. Attorney's Office. How often did you see that happen?
Well, in 26 years, I never did that.
Never saw it.
And I didn't do it. I never dismissed a case. And believe me, if I investigated a case and at some point saw evidence that I wasn't aware of that made me question what I was doing, I would dismiss the charge. And I have done that in my career. I can't tell you how many times we ask the government, just show us something. You know, I've been doing a little bit of defense work for 8 years, not a lot, and I look at the evidence, and if I think my client's guilty, I go, hey, let's try to get you a good deal. But I kept looking at this evidence, and it just wasn't there.
Who's at fault? Is it the U.S. attorney, or is it the attorneys assigned to the case who actually?
All of the above.
All the above, okay.
Mhm.
And what reason do you?
We're looking into that. We are looking into that when we determine whether or not there's any more,
Frivolous lawsuit
yeah.
action, okay. Frivolous charge.
So let me add one thing really important. So when I reached out to Andrea, I was referred by a former prosecutor with the DOJ who I have a lot of respect for. I made a call to her, and I'm not completely sure you believe me.
Well, you never know
Right.
until
So no client is completely innocent probably in most cases, but listen.
it's rare.
It's rare, okay? But I knew, and she soon learned the truth and knew the truth. I came to Mimi because I believe that my defense is who I am in this county. I really did. And I believe if we had to go to trial, it's who I am in this county that would have, at the end of the day, had me acquitted. So,
We had lunch a couple of weeks ago at a restaurant in Frederick County, and every 5 minutes, someone came up to the table to say hello to the sheriff. And they heard this or they heard that and they're cheering for him. It's obvious if you live here.
Any more questions?
Sheriff, can you show us your photo from the
Proudly, get a good photo of it. But again, I got to thank my senior command staff and my close friends and support staff here in the agency who have kept this going, and particularly my dear friend and number 2 man, Colonel Dave Benjamin. When I initially went out on a leave of absence, he had the helm of the ship here, and he kept it. And again, I only stepped back for a little bit to really try to figure out what had happened, and took a brief leave of absence, and soon came back of my own decision. So.
Well, you were sitting at home and.
I'm sitting at home doing the same thing I'm doing here, I guess.
That wasn't a good thing, so.
Yeah.
Sheriff, before they indicted you, the ACLU was after you. They were attacking you on border security, detainment of illegal criminal aliens. Do you see a connection between those initial attacks and what happened from DOJ?
I know that over the course of my 18 years as sheriff, I have been attacked by the ACLU, the NAACP, Black Lives Matter, Rise of Western Maryland, all the organizations that are opposed to what I do and what I stand for. I can, in my mind, connect the dots. Can I prove it? Probably not, but I will tell you this. No, I won't bring it up, but anyway, in my mind, I can connect the dots. I know that Congressman Trone wanted me to end the program based on the opposition that wanted it gone. So it all comes into play. I think probably the biggest reason is my stand down in Annapolis over the course of years that things I've stood for, things that I've opposed, the sanctuary state laws, and that's probably the biggest thing.
And is that when Eric Barron, then a state legislator, was attacking you, only later to become U.S. Attorney?
I believe that's correct. Yes, sir. Coincidental, right? Yeah.
Did you ever throughout this debate whether you should stay on the job or step down?
You know what? No, never gave it a second thought because I knew the truth. Okay, and you know, maybe a passing thought the first night, maybe. But again, my great staff, my great friends, my family, but I knew the truth, and I was bound to fight this out. I was not going to. Can I tell them about the informal plea offer?
But they offered lesser charges.
Yeah, they offered a much lesser charge, and I refused. I said, no, I'm not pleading guilty to something I didn't do. Remember that in Butler, Pennsylvania? Fight, fight, fight. That's where I'm at. That's where I was.
When was that plea offer?
A year ago, maybe? Or, well,
No, a couple months before trial.
yeah.
Before Mr. Kropp's trial.
Right.
Sheriff, in addition to taking your service weapon, they also wouldn't let you have a bow to go bow hunting. And you're subject to some searches of your private residence. A little bit of overreach?
Do I feel that way? Yes, sir, I do. So yeah, let me just say this. So I was on pretrial probation, and I was subject to supervision. So yes, a probation officer who was very respectful, by the way, very respectful in terms of who I am, and because I'm a fellow law enforcement officer and a sitting sheriff. Yes, he come through my home. I have to open my gun safe, my gun cabinet, open the closet doors, and that was a condition of pretrial. Yes. So yeah, it's true. I couldn't even have a bow to hunt with. A convicted felon had more rights than I do, or did.
Do you think there was overreach? Do you think that they were proving a point going to that level with you?
It wasn't the officer. I don't want to say. Do I think it's overreach? Yes. I don't know. Never been in this position before.
It felt like overreach.
It felt like overreach.
But it's standard. It is standard routine for the U.S. probation to do those kinds of things. I'm sure it didn't feel good, though.
No. So, anything else? Glad to.
Thanks, Sheriff.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here, and thank you. Let's go back to my office. Let's go back to my office. Yeah. How you doing? Good to see you.